Hi, this is Kevin with Advanced Leather Solutions. With me today is Jason Murray. He's our senior technician. And what we're going to do today is we're going to assemble a Wassily chair. Wassily chair consists of 7 straps. There are 4 straps that are used for the arm components, 1 seat strap, and then 2 straps for the back. We call it a backrest and lumbar component. And so to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to assemble the first component, which is the seat component. So take it away, Jay.
This is the seat frame. It's got opposing holes on the inside at the front. This is where it connects with the frame in the front.
Yes.
It's got holes on either side at the rear.
Yes.
And these holes need to be facing downward.
Okay.
And the top side, you can tell the top side from the back side of all straps in that. This is where the skive section is.
Okay.
This
So
is
that's
where
the
the bottom
bottom.
plate is attached.
Right.
Yeah. And there's nice and smooth
Okay.
there too. So this just feeds right in, slides along to just past these first holes. So he allows access to the front holes, access to the rear.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that's it.
All right. So then we'll take that and begin the second half of the process, or continue on in this process on the next video. Thanks, Jason.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back again, ready to do the second step in the process, which is application of the lumbar and backrest to the frame that carries it. So go ahead, Jay.
Okay. We start making sure that this is facing upward because the wing is facing
Yes.
down. Slide on. And there are 2 schools of thought. One is to thread the lumbars on around the corner like this. The other school of thought, and this is difficult, it puts a lot of stress on that
Yes.
seam right there.
Right.
The other school is to sneak it around like this.
So to have it at a 90-degree angle relative to the frame.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that one's on. And then feed this one on. You may have to bring the pieces together.
Yes, I see that.
It might be time to phone a friend.
So it's a wrestling match, is what you're
Pretty
also
much, yeah.
demonstrating. All right. What if you were to lube the corners in some way, Jason? Perhaps with some silicone or something like that. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, it might be. I will say that on this section in particular, if you are disassembling an older piece, once the leather loses its flexibility over time, it dries out and loses its ability, the elasticity that it has when it's new. And so taking these off of the frame, if it's an older piece, I would say 10 years or more, you run the risk of doing serious damage because the leather doesn't have that elasticity any longer.
So it's if you're going to be replacing them, you may as well just cut them off as opposed to trying to
Right,
take them
and
off.
if you're sending them to someone to be refinished, you may want to consider leaving the back assembly as it stands, and then whoever's doing the color work can tape off the frames rather than removing.
Makes sense. Well, I'll let you go on with the next step, and we'll pick up after that's done.
All right.
Okay, so now we have the lumbar and the backrest put onto the frame, and we're going to start with the next step, which is getting the arms in place.
Okay,
So we're going to set this aside.
And here's the frame. The piece that we want is the back. This is the front. This is where the seat assembly bolts onto the front. You can tell the difference between the front and the back is that this has screw holes here, the back does not.
Okay.
So we know that this is the back. Okay, so we have it with the back. We'll have two straps on each side. And we'll take a strap. Now what you want to do is you want to trace your route because you want the inside strap to end up with the finished side facing inward.
Yes.
So we'll kind of trace the route to know how it goes on.
So you start with the position of where you want the whole thing to be at the end game.
Right, and
then
trace
work
it
backwards.
Back. Right. Arms are easier to sneak around these corners.
And that's because they're thinner.
They are thinner. Okay, so arm number one's in place. Fold it away from the side that you're working on. And then trace where the other one needs to end up. Finished side would be facing up.
Yes.
Okay, and so we'll repeat that for the opposite side.
All right, well, we'll let you do that, Jason. We'll pick up after that's done.
Okay.
We have the forearms now on the back of the frame, and now we need to connect that to the front of the frame. And you can see how we have it set up with the sides and the actual tops crossing each other. So what do we do next, Jason?
Well, we'll take the backrest assembly. We'll turn it. The wing will be facing toward the back, and the arms thread between the two straps. Same on the other side. Okay, and so now we're ready to put the arms on the front section of the frame. And again, you want to start with the inside arm. Trace where it ends up.
Yes.
Trace that route.
It's such a simple step, and it's so easy to overlook, but you really do want to trace that route, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself with the leather inappropriately or improperly installed.
That's correct. Like we did here. No, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so the arms
So that's what we
facing
want to look
inward.
like.
Yeah.
Correct. And the only way you can really accomplish that with a surety is you want to do the trace.
Okay, so that's the assembly, so we'll repeat for the other side.
All right, we'll pick up when that's done. We now have the leather straps mounted, the arm straps, the lumbar straps, and the seat strap itself. So now we need to start putting everything back together again. So Jason, what happens next?
Okay, so now we need to mate the two halves of the frame. Let's fit on like that. That fits on like that. Sometimes you can use force to get them to slide down. More often than not, they'll bind. Oh, see, that one came down. What I usually do to help this is to place it on a flat surface and press downward. That helps it free the binding there. There we go.
Okay.
So at this point we'll install the arm rails, and then we'll attach the lumbar to it.
Okay.
Right, so the arm rail, there are two holes toward the back.
Okay.
and then one hole at front. That's how you'll know.
Okay.
And the arm rails go to the inside.
Show me that one more time, Jason. They go
Arm rails
to the,
go
into
to the inside of the
okay.
chair.
Okay.
And first we'll thread the back one. Don't lose these little spacers. They're not bonded to the screw. On disassembly, if you pull the screw out too fast, the spacer will drop
down
into the frame.
yeah.
Okay, and I won't thread it all the way. I mean, we want some play.
Right.
Then I'll thread the front. This may take help because you are tightening everything. Okay. And then we'll duplicate this for the other side.
Okay.
Remember that the rails go to the inside.
Okay, we'll pick up when that's done.
Okay.
We have one side rail now firmly in place, and we're going to now do the final touch on the second side rail to get that firmly in place. But before we do anything else, I want to point something out. See those two pieces of foam that we have that allows for the backrest to rest on top of the arm? That's a good idea, because what it does is it prevents any friction or related damage that may happen as a result of the two leather pieces coming together when you're trying to manipulate this frame into place. So it's a safety precaution. Okay, Jay, what's next?
We bring the back assembly to the second hole toward the back and try and thread into those. This is what holds the back assembly in place.
Now this is a original Knoll frame, and the systems that are used for connection are pretty consistent over the years. There's been a lot of knockoffs that have been brought to the market in the last 20 years that are copies of this Wassily chair.
And they maybe have slight differences in the fasteners.
And in the general architecture of the piece at large.
Yeah.
One of the ways that you can tell if you have an original frame is if you look at the ends of the tube. In this particular case, if you look at the end of that tube, you can see that the tube looks like it's one continuous piece of steel, like the bottom of a Coke can, when in fact it's a weld, but it's such a fine weld that you can't see it. The knockoffs have caps on the end, because it's much easier to make a piece of metal that's just a tube and then cap it than to go through this fine welding process that you find with a Knoll frame.
Okay. So the final step is to install the seat assembly. There are 2 bolts at the back coming from the bottom, and 2 bolts at the front, and the bolts go from the inside toward the outside.
Okay.
This rests on this back frame. And mates up right there.
Well, I'll let you secure that in place, Jason,
Okay.
and we'll pick up after that.
All right.
So here we are with the chair fully assembled. All leather components are attached. All of the metal braces are in place. One final point, and that is how the back frame and the front frame actually meet. We saw us putting it together, but there's actually a connection point in here that I'd like to point out.
Put this on its back. And there's a set screw inside here, and it threads inward to loosen and threads outward to bind this together, which seems counterintuitive, but find out which of these we got going here. So we'll back this out. And now these pieces, because it's bound by the set screw, they can't separate.
Got it. And that happens on both sides.
Correct.
And so to tighten, you draw it out. To loosen, you put it in.
That's correct.
That's the counterintuitive component.
Right.
Once that's tightened, everything is now in place. This chair is stable. It'll give 20, 30 years worth of wear and tear use.